At 1:50 in the morning on May 24, 1944, Soundman Second Class John Prock pressed his headphones tightly against his ears aboard USS England, straining to distinguish the faintest vibrations from the ocean 300 feet below. The destroyer Escort rolled gently in the darkness north of the Admiralty Islands, its steel hull creaking with each swell of the Pacific, while Prock's back throbbed. His head pounded from exhaustion, and the last of his cold coffee had long since gone untouched. For 6 hours, he had listened to the depths, following invisible predators across the black water, and now he heard it, a subtle mechanical hum, the propeller cavitation, the unmistakable rhythm of a submarine attempting to evade detection. Row 116, the fourth Japanese submarine the crew had hunted in 5 days, was beneath them, and Prock understood what was coming. The Hedgehog mortars would fire, sending 24 explosive projectiles in a precise forward arc, each capable of tearing through steel hulls. If they missed, the hunt would start over. If they hit, there would be destruction, debris, oil, and bodies surfacing in the endless Pacific darkness. But this submarine was no ordinary target. Its commander, Lieutenant O'Cab Tisher, a veteran of 9 war patrols, employed evasive maneuvers Prock had never encountered, fishtailing, altering depth rapidly, and transmitting counterpings to confuse the sonar operators. Every second mattered. The ship, the crew, and Lieutenant Williamson on the bridge all relied on the tiny pulses of sound filtering through Prock's headphones. What unfolded in the next 20 minutes would not only determine the outcome of this hunt, but contribute to a series of events that would make USS England a legend. American anti-submarine warfare had evolved slowly. In early 1942, depth charges were nearly useless, with a kill rate of just 3%, leaving 97 out of every 100 enemy submarines free to strike convoys, report Allied fleet positions, and deliver supplies to Japanese garrisons. Traditional depth charges detonated indiscriminately, creating turbulent water that interfered with sonar contact for up to 40 minutes, leaving attacking ships blind while submarines escaped. By 1944, improved tactics, experienced crews, and better depth charge patterns had increased the kill rate to 20 to 30%, but success remained elusive. American destroyer escorts often dropped dozens of charges, yet submarines routinely survived, disappearing into the vastness of the ocean. It was the Hedgehog, a British invention adopted by the U.S. Navy in 1942, that revolutionized anti-submarine warfare. The forward-firing spigot mortar launched 24 projectiles ahead of the ship in an elliptical pattern. These projectiles only exploded on contact, concentrating their lethal power on the hull and maintaining continuous sonar contact throughout the attack run. One hit could breach a submarine's pressure hull, while multiple hits guaranteed destruction, a stark contrast to the scattershot approach of depth charges. USS England, a Buckley-class destroyer escort commissioned on December 10, 1943, was named for Ensign John Charles England, lost at Pearl Harbor. She displaced 1,740 tons at full load, measured 306 feet in length, and carried a crew of 186 men. Though modestly armed compared to larger destroyers, her real power lay in her sonar systems, depth charge racks, and Hedgehog launcher. Lieutenant Commander Walton Barclay Pendleton, a career Navy officer with experience in destroyer operations, commanded the ship, while Lieutenant John Williamson, the executive officer and tactical genius in anti-submarine warfare, trained the crew relentlessly. Soundmen Prock and Bernhard drilled daily, learning to detect subtle nuances. The popping of hulls under pressure, ballast tanks flooding, subtle changes in propeller cavitation, and distinguishing false echoes from genuine submarine contacts. By May 1944, USS England's crew was among the most proficient anti-submarine teams in the Pacific Fleet. The events leading up to Row 116's encounter were meticulously orchestrated by intelligence. Fleet Radio Unit Pacific, stationed at Pearl Harbor, had broken the Japanese naval code JN-25 and intercepted messages revealing the positions of multiple submarines forming Scouting Line NA, a picket line north of the Admiralty Islands designed to detect Allied fleet movements. Beginning May 18, USS England, alongside USS George and USS Robbie, intercepted these submarines with precision. Over the next several days, I-16, RO-106, RO-104, and RO-108 were all sunk after carefully coordinated attacks that combined intelligence, superior maneuvering, sonar expertise, and Hedgehog lethality. Each encounter illustrated the deadly synergy of advanced technology, rigorous training, and tactical ingenuity. When RO-116 surfaced on radar early that morning, the crew knew the stakes were higher than ever. T-Shirt, aware of the previous losses, fought back aggressively, employing fishtailing, rapid depth changes, and counterpings to create false sonar contacts, making the target jump unpredictably on proc screens. The sonar operator adjusted gain, pulse rate, and filters, meticulously tracking the submarine while Williamson maneuvered England for the optimal firing position. The first 3 Hedgehog salvos struck around the submarine, damaging but not destroying it. Flooding compartments, jammed bow planes, and relentless pressure from the depth of 300 feet slowed RO-116, but she remained operational. By dawn, debris and oil appeared on the surface, confirming the vessel's destruction along with all 56 men aboard. The campaign continued relentlessly. On May 26, after refueling and rearming, USS England engaged RO-108, sinking her with a half-salvo of Hedgehog projectiles, and on May 31, intercepted RO-105, commanded by the seasoned Captain Cato Ryanovsk. Using the same combination of intelligence, precision maneuvering, and patient observation, Williamson forced RO-105 into a predictable pattern and fired a perfectly calculated salvo that detonated with multiple explosions, destroying the submarine and all 55 crew members, including Cato. 6 submarines had been destroyed in just 12 days, a feat unmatched in naval history, demonstrating not only the lethal effectiveness of the Hedgehog but the extraordinary skill and coordination of USS England's crew. The consequences were immediate and profound. Japanese submarine operations in the Central Pacific were effectively halted for 3 months. Commanders became cautious, choosing to remain submerged, reducing operational speed, and avoiding areas where they might encounter destroyer escorts. Submarines that stayed underwater could not conduct reconnaissance effectively or transmit operational messages, severely limiting their strategic value. The psychological impact on Japanese submarine crews was immense. For the first time, they faced an enemy capable of precise, relentless, and deadly anti-submarine warfare. Meanwhile, USS England's crew, though exhausted from continuous operations, had cemented their place in history. The ship returned to Manus Island on June 1 for rest, resupply, and repairs, and the crew received the Presidential Unit Citation, with individual awards for Pendleton, Williamson, and many crew members. The Navy's promise, "There will always be an England," endured, with subsequent vessels carrying the name into the Cold War and beyond, serving as symbols of unmatched precision, training, and tactical brilliance. By combining intelligence, technology, and human expertise, USS England achieved what no other ship in naval history had accomplished, permanently altering the course of submarine warfare in the Pacific and setting a benchmark for naval excellence that would be remembered for generations.